This week, I decided to talk about key workouts for 5K and 10K running races. So, this is also applicable to sprint and Olympic or international distance triathlon training. So, this is assuming that you're in good shape. Maybe you've been running just without any format to it and you have no injuries. So, if you have injuries or you're getting into running, this sort of stuff is not quite appropriate for you. So, assuming healthy, decent running mileage. The first session I think is super important that you should include every week in your training structure is a easy steady run, maybe somewhere in the 3 to 5 mile range, and you focus on plyometrics and drills. So there's a lot of videos out there that can illustrate these drills, but this includes things like butt kicks, high knees, height skips, bounding, A skips, B skips, C skips, and strides, especially uphill strides. So a stride is running at pretty fast, almost sprint speed, but only for 40 or 50 yards. So you stop. It's an alactate sprint, meaning you finish before you really start to build up too much lactic acid or anything like that. Uphill is nice because then you have to apply more force, and things like bounds are working on your power, your push-off power, and all the other ones are working on some combination of power or foot speed. These are really, really important, especially as we get older. So you younger guys and gals, you're still going to have a lot of your strength. It's just going to stick around. But once you're over 35, it's going to start to fade. And if you don't actively pursue maintaining and improving what you have, it's going to go away. So every week you should be doing a session that's in the 3 to 5 mile range with 10 to 20 minutes worth of plyometric running drills. The next session for 5K is a interval workout that is going to be somewhere in the 2 to 4 mile range of total work intervals, meaning your run workout, the total run workout may be 6 or 7 miles, which would include warm up, cool down, as well as your recovery intervals. So your work intervals are the hard part. For these, you want to be running at 5K pace or a bit faster. It's going to depend week to week. It's going to depend a little bit on how you feel, but your goal is 5K pace or faster because you're trying to improve your 5K time. The way I would like to break these up, and you can mix it up, right? There's no best format for this, but the way I like to mix it up is by doing 400 repeats on the track, half-mile repeats on the track, and mile repeats on the track. So a track is ideal because you have the exact pace going. If you can't get to a track, a greenway works where you can measure with your watch or just run by time. We do most of our intervals on a dirt road, so it doesn't have a designated distance on it. You have to go by time, which is also fine. So for time, you could do 2-minute intervals, 3-minute intervals, 6 or 7-minute intervals to simulate the mile repeats. And your recovery time on the track, I would do half recovery. So if you run at 800, you would recover for 400. Time-wise, I would do roughly half. But if you're going harder, sometimes you might go equal time, meaning if you're doing a minute 30 interval, you would want to recover for a minute 30 as well. So those are all set at like 5K pace or faster. When you get into the or faster part, you need to be very aware of how your body is feeling, and you don't want to push it too fast. If you're trying to keep up, let's say you're a 6:30 pace 5K kind of runner, you don't want to try to keep up with somebody who can run 5-minute pace because you're probably going to hurt yourself. If you don't hurt yourself, you're going to need a lot of recovery from that session because you're going to be very sore. So there is some danger involved with interval running, but if you are intelligent about it and use common sense, you can avoid getting hurt. The 1 mile repeats are tough. You should be running those at your current pace or faster, and the third one is going to be pretty uncomfortable, but so is a 5K race. Something else to know with 5K, 10K, your fastest times are going to be positive split times. So, in theory, it's great to talk about negative splitting, meaning the second half of your event is going to be faster than the first half. But in practice, it's not how that works. Typically, what's going to be a really good time for most runners is going to be a positive split, meaning if they're going to average 6 minutes, it's going to be something like a 5:50, a 6 minute, and a 6:10 within the race. That's going to get you the best time because you're not leaving anything on the table. The problem with negative splitting is that we're often leaving time on the table with that slower first half. So for that reason, another key workout is doing a tempo run where you actually try to go out harder, and you're gonna slow down as you go along, but your goal is to maintain that effort. If you're a heart rate type of person, you're going to notice that your heart rate is going to climb on a workout like that. It's also going to climb through any sort of broken interval workout. That is normal. For that reason, I would say don't be a slave to your heart rate when you're doing running interval workouts like this. Just see what your time and pace is doing. Now, moving on to the 10K. The 10K training, all of that 5K training is applicable. But now what we have to work on is our endurance, our speed endurance, right? We're holding this hard pace for a much longer time, double the distance, obviously. So when we're getting into the 10K, our interval workouts are going to be a bit longer. Now we're getting into the 4, 5, 6 mile range for specific 10K training. And as difficult as it sounds, doing 20 by 400s at your 10K pace with only 100 or a 200 recovery now. So one of the things we're doing is shortening the recovery interval, right? Because we're trying to work on our speed endurance. So your pace on this workout is going to be slower, intentionally slower than you would for your 5K workout, but you're doing 8 more repeats or 10 more repeats on a workout like this. The same thing for doing half mile repeats or mile repeats. Now we're getting up into the 5, 6, maybe even 7 by 1 mile repeats. We're doing that 7th one to really just work on our ability to maintain speed for this long distance. In a workout like that, if you're doing 6 or 7 1-milers, I would do it a handful of times where you're just running at your goal pace, and then a handful, maybe 1 or 2, that's not a handful, 1 or 2 times where you actually intentionally go a little harder at the beginning. So if we're a 6-minute average, maybe our first 2 miles are like 5:45, 5:50, and then we're going to creep up from there, because that's going back into that whole positive split is how you're actually going to run your fastest time. And then a progression run. A progression run would be where you actually intentionally start out a little slower and then get faster through the run, or your effort increases, ideally both, that you get faster and your effort increases. And so again, if we're at a 6-minute goal race pace, maybe we start out at like a 6:30, 6:40, and we bring it down to the last mile or two is at 6 minutes or under. Very difficult to do. But really good for your mental training, which is a big part of this, is withstanding discomfort in these short events. For both 5K and 10K, you should be doing a easy, steady long run on a weekly basis. So that's somewhere for a 5K, you want to be doing 6 or 7 miles, just comfortable aerobic training, because we need to maintain our aerobic base. And for that 10K, we should be getting more into the 8 to 10 mile range for our easy, steady long run. Beware of doing too much intensity. So if you are, very motivated and you really want to get a good time, you theoretically, especially if you're younger, you could be doing a interval workout, a tempo run, progression run, negative split run, and a long run that you may intentionally or not go a little harder than need be. So if we get into that routine, your chances of injury do increase. You need to be very aware of how much intensity you're doing every week. And by intensity, I mean this high level 5K, 10K pace or very close to it. And it really shouldn't be more than 20% of your total running volume. Meaning, if you're running 20 miles a week, then 4 miles should be the upper kind of limit on how much hard running you do in that week. So, that being said, obviously, if you want to get into the higher level competition stuff, you need to increase your mileage so that your platform, your base of training is larger so that you can do more time at intensity, at the high intensity. So to summarize, plyometrics for both 5K, 10K, at least once a week. An interval workout that could be varying distances. You can mix that up, but the half mile, quarter mile, and mile repeats are the easiest to repeat on a regular basis. There are things like pyramids where you go 400, 800, 1600, 800, 400. And then the steady long run. You absolutely need that as a foundational run within your training program. So like and subscribe. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time.